Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of This May Be a Bad Idea, Conversations on Bravery. I am your host, Nicole Butts. And if you're new here, this podcast, it's a conversation on bravery. My intention is that this podcast will be a hopeful reminder that it takes bravery and courage to create the future that we want for ourselves, for our families, and for our communities. With intentionality, we can all face the hard things, no matter how big or small, and then make the best choice for ourselves. It will tell the story of everyday people who face what feels like the impossible and still bravely leap into the unknown. As this first season is coming to a close, a reminder that this has been a homage to the people of USAID. USAID alum have sat with me and shared their stories of bravery in moving from the destruction of USAID and how it affected them personally to continuing to be a force of good in their next unexpected path. And with that, today's guest is someone I have been genuinely moved by since I first met her and learned her story. I had the pleasure of meeting today's guest, Keisha Effiom, at an event during her USAID Mission Director week. We were joyously celebrating the fact that for the first time in USAID history, 8 Black women were appointed as mission directors. I remember being filled with hope and optimism for what the future would bring. Keisha spent 18 years at USAID, where she rose to become a mission director. She was leading the mission for Rwanda and Burundi, doing work where the stakes weren't metrics on a slide deck. They were human lives. And then, in a matter of weeks, the agency she had given nearly 2 decades of her life to was dismantled. But what did Keisha do? She didn't go quiet. She didn't go bitter. She wrote a book. I Said My Piece with Peace. It's her account of what it looks like to be a servant leader and lead with everything you have. When the institution is crumbling, when the people you're fighting for don't always see the fight you're in on their behalf, and when you have to decide who you're going to be on the other side of the wreckage. And if that weren't enough, Keisha and her family made another decision. They didn't return to the States. They chose to call the place that felt like home, home. She moved to South Africa with her husband, her daughter, and her son. She chose to stay on the continent she had poured herself into. She's now running a company with her sister and serving on boards across the international development community and still writing. Keisha is one of those people who makes you reconsider your own relationship with courage. Not because she made it look easy, but because she didn't. Keisha, I'm so glad to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And what a generous introduction. I really appreciate that.
Good. It is all true. All of that is you.
It's true.
So, can you take a moment and tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? Who is Keisha Effiom?
Well, first off, thank you, Nicole, for having me on as a guest on your podcast. And the series is on bravery. So I hope you have also interviewed yourself, because it is brave to start your own thing. And I love the name. I love the name. So thank you for the time. So who is Keisha? I'm multifaceted, but I think the most important thing regarding me is I'm a woman of faith first. I'm also an introvert, which when I tell people that, they're like, what are you talking about? No, I really am. I'm also the wife to Vincent, who is my very best friend and the honey to my tea. And I am,
love that.
and I have 2 beautiful children who keep me extremely grounded. I have a now 15-year-old son who is the version of me I hid from my mother. And I have a 12-year-old daughter who is the version of me that I showed my mom. So motherhood is my highest accomplishment. My kids keep me on my toes and keep me honest. I'm also a sister and a mother. I had an older brother who passed away 1 year before my father. We are a very close-knit family. I love music. I'm rooted in love and music. My father used to sing all the time. I sing all the time. I talk about it in my book. My daughter hummed before she said anything because I used to sing all the time. So music is a really big, important part of me. I lost my father 16 years ago, and I feel like I quote him pretty much every day. He's a part of how I think, how I lead, how I move, typically in a room. I also love to plan events. So again, when I say I'm an introvert and then I tell you other things that I love to do, like event planning, that when I do actually retire, that is what I want to do. I want to do event planning. But most importantly, Nicole, I really do enjoy seeing other people happy when things are not good. You mentioned in your introduction, I spent 18 years with USAID. I was at the height of my career before everything happened. My final posting was Rwanda and Burundi. And as you said, it was such an historical moment back in 2024 when I was sworn in, because that was the only time that the agency at the same time had 8 African American women as mission directors. We called ourselves the historical 8. I think about that a lot, where how this administration really destroyed what we thought was going to be we had just gotten started. But I didn't let that stop me. So the other thing that to know about me, I wrote a book in 5 months, and I also started my own company. I'm the co-founder of the Amara Advisory Group. And then again, the author of I Said My Piece with Peace. So I'm a woman who's just trying to live in a way that honors people who poured into me and leave something behind that's worth more than my resume. That's Keisha.
Oh, you're living in honor of those who have poured into you.
Yeah.
I think that should be a goal for everyone, because no one has gotten where they are by themselves. It's only through the love and sacrifice of others.
Always.
The generosity of others that have helped us achieve our greatness, who have helped us become who we are. I may borrow that. That may be one of the quotes that we keep going for the podcast. Next question is, what was going through your mind when the agency that you'd been at for 18 years, as we were just talking about, was dismantled so quickly? What were you thinking? Where were you? Where was your mind when you realized, oh no, this is actually happening?
I mean, honestly, there's no preparation, for watching a 64-year-old institution come down in months. Like it's you can't fathom that. I remember sitting and talking to my team, and in my mind, and even development partners, colleagues from the EU and the French and Germans. When the elections happened, they were like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, we've been here before. That's what I said. I live to eat my words. USA was older than me. It was older than most of the work that it was doing, and to see it dismantled, not by mission failure or by the will of people, but by decision, was grief. I don't even think I have language for what that is besides grief. And I think for me, because I'm a servant leader and I think about people, the thing that I was thinking about was not how do we transfer our programs to State Department, which is what they wanted us to do. It was about how am I about to take care of my people in this instance right now. The lady that was executive office team who had been with the mission for 30 years, who hasn't interviewed in 30 years, her retirement is right around the corner, and this agency that she served 30 years for is being dismantled. So I had to remember my people. Every partner who trusted us, every government who trusted us. It was like watching the lights go off in each country. Shut off, shut off, shut off. And then it became really embarrassing. It was just like we were suspended in midair, and I felt like we were on an island that nobody heard while we were screaming at the top of our lungs. So underneath that grief, there was something else that was rising. And it's a sentence that I would later write into my book. I was like, I can sit here and be completely overwhelmed with my entire career falling, or I'm gonna have to do something. And so I can either pour into my people and I'm gonna go down fighting. And then I came to this resolution where I was like, you cannot break what was not meant to be broken. You can take this building, you can take the funding, you can take the title off the door, but what you will not do is take conviction of the work that matters. You can't do that. That belongs to me. That belongs to my colleagues. That belongs to the work that we did. There's nothing that you can do to take our hand off of that. So take it. Take the title, take the USAID illegally, take that. Go ahead. The people now, we're scattered everywhere. I'm interested in seeing what we're all going to do next. But in that moment, and even still now, I can't let grief or anger determine what my next move is going to be. I can't do that. So that's what was going through my mind.
And I want to pull in another quote from your book, and that is, when your people need you most, when the institution fails them completely, when everything you were supposed to build is being torn down, that's when you discover what you're really
True
made
leadership.
of.
Yep. Yeah.
And one thing that really strikes me in your book is your style of leadership, your servant leadership, because things that were happening to them were also happening to you, which you talk about in the book. And having to be exhausted every day because you are going through the same thing and you have the same feelings and you're in shock, you're mourning, you're doing all those things, but realizing that there are people that are depending on you, that you have to, that you're trying to do right by, that you are in the fight for. When I first approached you about being on the podcast, I said, I really feel like you are bravery personified. I know what I was going through in headquarters, but being in the field and having people in places, they poured themselves into helping us, into helping create the future that America is like, you can have this if we all work together for it. And then having us turn our backs on them. And we're not going to try to help you. It had to be hard to see and left. So gratitude for all that you've done. And I know that every day was hard, but you pushed through. You pushed through because you were like, again, what am I going to do? I can't just lay here and
no
go
choice.
to sleep.
I'm telling you.
And wait for something better to happen. Yeah. That was a lot of feelings that we were all going to be okay. And then we're like, oh, wait, nothing's okay. Here we go.
Yeah.
With that, let's jump into the book. The book that Keisha has written, I Said My Piece with Peace. You describe it as a reckoning in the book. It tells the story of what was happening real time with the abolishment of USAID, and it is a testament to your servant leadership when everything was falling apart, personally and professionally. And when the people that you were fighting for, they didn't always see all the things that you were doing or express gratitude for what did happen. So that's hard. That's a lot of pain on top of what you're already experiencing. So I feel like servant leadership has always been your style. But when you experience something like this, when you experience everything kind of just crumbling and falling down around you, how did that change your style of servant leadership? What does your servant leadership look like for you today?
So I launched my book here yesterday, and a similar question came up. The guy who asked it, similar frame, like, so has your decision to continue to be a servant leader changed? And I was like, it can't. Servant leadership is a covenant, not a contract. Contracts have terms and conditions. Both parties have to honor it. A covenant basically says, I'm going to keep my word even when you don't keep yours. That's a part of my core. I will not break my covenant of servant leadership for anyone. That is how I lead. That is what I pride myself on. That is what I know. So, but for the majority of the people that I have had the honor to work with, if I go back, especially starting this new organization, and I want to reach out and say, hey, are you interested in joining? They will come. Why? Because of the way that I've led. that is something I'm very proud of. What it means to me now is the work doesn't end when the institution does. It means that my servant leadership stays very strong and it's carried over into the next iteration of what I'm doing. Whatever we're pivoting to,
Yes.
or reimagining or reinventing, whatever
Mhm.
we're doing, I'm not changing my core values. I didn't change it for aid. I was very unapologetic about that. Won't change it in the private sector.
Mhm.
I also feel like you can rub off on people. And not everyone is you're going to win over. And that is not my goal, but my goal is to continue to be me because I am a force to be reckoned with. And either you will love it or love it more. That's how I look at it. But I've seen how consistency and being true to yourself really has been the driving force for me and has really gotten me where I need to go. I do not apologize for it. I take care of my people. And the one thing I wanted to say about the servant leadership, which is why I'm very proud of it, is when everything was falling apart, I had to be the calmest voice in the room. Staff were watching me whether to know they should be afraid. And I was honest. We need to start looking for jobs. You need to start looking for jobs. I need to start looking at how I can give you a cushion so that you are not stressed out. We're going to all be stressed, but to minimize that stress as best as I could. I didn't do broken promises. I didn't give false hope. Like I want to be very authentic. I want to be true. And I want to see how we can best move through this very unfortunate situation as best as we can. So that
Mhm.
when you walk out of these doors, the only regret that you have is for those that tore it down for no reason. Not because I didn't do my part or try to help as best as I can. Yeah. No
And
executive order can dismantle that. So,
and that goes back to what you were saying about the conviction.
yeah.
USAID was more than an agency. It was people who had conviction, people who were passionate about making the world a better place from where they were. And it was something that was shared. And I think that for most people was a covenant, a personal covenant that they had. And I like how you phrase it as a covenant, not a contract.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all we can do is walk with faith and be kind. That is one thing I try to teach my daughter. I'm just like, was that kind? Because that is what stays with people. The way that you treat people is what stays
Hey,
with them. And
all the
you
time.
never know how a smile, a kind word, or treating people with dignity and respect, how that will influence their future and
Yeah.
how it will influence the way that they think about you and maybe people from where you come. So after the shutdown, most people in your position did move back to the States, but you and your family, you chose to move to South Africa instead. Walk me through that decision.
Do you mind if I read a passage from my book
Of
on
course
that?
not. Please do.
So this question came up, why didn't we go back? And I think my book kind of spells it out. So it's hard for me to admit that I couldn't fathom coming back home. This place that raised this savvy DC girl, educated and authentic woman, and launched me into this global impact leader on the continent. And that's when it hit me. Betrayal doesn't always have a face. Sometimes it's systemic. Sometimes it's the slow, sinking realization that the country you represented abroad can't or simply won't make space for you to return. I had served, I had built, I had given my career, my expertise, my years to something I deeply believed in with USAID. And when the bureaucratic machinery shifted, when USAID closed, I was left economically and emotionally exposed. My husband and I suddenly jobless, facing a home country that had become unaffordable and unwelcoming in ways I couldn't have imagined. But it was more than economics. It was the realization that I didn't belong there anymore. I didn't feel like it was a place where my family and I could feel safe. I had a 14-year-old son who loves his hoodies and cornrows, a 12-year-old daughter who still looked at the world with hope and possibility, a husband naturalized by a country he once believed in. So I refused to experience the emotional cost of an accident because my son fit the description. I couldn't watch my daughter's hope being shattered by a reality I couldn't protect her from. Or my husband, a naturalized citizen, somehow becoming deportable in a country that no longer played by its own rules. I had no faith to give, no hope, not in this place I once called home. DC wasn't home anymore, not in any way that mattered. So I had to rethink what home truly means. It's where you grew. Is it where you grew up, or is home where you can rebuild, where your people are, where you feel safe and like you belong? So we decided to move to South Africa. The place that I grew up, that I knew, that was not home for me anymore. So we prayed about it, my husband and I, and we looked at it from a financial standpoint. I was fortunate enough to be able to retire, even though I haven't received my retirement benefits yet. And I said, where can a family afford live affordably on this salary on the continent? And South Africa was the first thing that popped up. And so I think it was the best decision that we've made in such a rushed manner. But there's also something quietly powerful about choosing to be home on this continent as well in this exact moment. And I'm here. I know the work is still here. The continent is here. And this is where I want to rebuild. Yes.
Okay. So to build something new, what is keeping you going through all of that?
I can't stop. But first and foremost, full stop, is faith. That is at the core. So my faith keeps me grounded. My family, and I have to just say, my husband, we've been married for it'll be 16 years.
Oh, wow.
He is my best
Congratulations.
friend. Thank you. He has been my main supporter and has guided me as well through this next iteration of what I'm doing, and the way that he's focused on me. I am so grateful. I say my family, and that includes my husband as one of my major cheerleaders, but my kids and my mom and my sister, they are what help keep me going when I have my bad days. I do keep moving forward, but I also name my emotions when I go through it. If it's anger, I'm going to sit with that for a second, acknowledge it, and see how I can move forward. And the only way I can move forward is through my faith. I keep going to Nicole, because there's no other choice. Like, I'm raising these two individuals up here, and if I show them that you quit when things get hard, life is not easy. Mm-hmm. We're going to deal with death. We're going to deal with loss, whether it's from a professional standpoint or a person that you love dearly. If you stop, then what? The world keeps moving. So we have to keep going. And one of my favorite people, especially in the book, who also is not here anymore, is John Lewis. I had the honor and privilege to meet him in Ghana. And so he was like, I want you guys to get into some good trouble, because he rarely saw people who look like us out as diplomats. Mm-hmm. So remember that, and don't get lost in the sea of despair. You've got to see the other side. If I stop, other people will do it, but there's only one Keisha Effiom. And I don't want, when people remember me, to know that I stopped. I stopped believing, I stopped trying, I stopped having faith. So I keep going because I have to.
And I don't think anyone, when they remember you or think of you, will ever think of a woman who stops. I think that they're going to think of a woman who is driven, of a woman who pushes herself and then pushes others to be better. That is the impact, the impact multiplier that everyone wants to be. So Keisha, I see that from you, the impact that you've had in the lives that you've touched, I think will continue on for a long time.
Thank you.
So you just keep being you. You got this. You don't even have to do anything different. So on to our next question. And this is our quintessential question. Was there a moment, even just one, where you thought that any of this may actually be a bad idea?
Of course. Being brave is not easy. Standing up for my people. Should I say something? Should I just, roll over and do what they tell me to do. Should I write this book? Should I do this podcast? A lot of moments where I was like, and being a servant leader and also being bold, do you do it? And a quote that comes, I have a dear friend, Deb McLean. She was the DCM and acting charge in the mission. When I first got there, she got me this beautiful necklace that says, be brave, be bold, be you. And I was like, ooh. And you carry that around and you're like, yes, be brave, be bold, be you. And you can do that until the moment is in front of you to be brave, be bold, and be you. And that moment happened several times during the dismantling. I had someone say to me, why do you want to do this for them? Well, who is them? And I had to go back and say, you don't get to question why I do anything. This has nothing to do with you. I could have been quiet. I had a very supportive ambassadors. I had supportive people, but I also had to be brave with my team when I was disappointed and them not believing how much I actually fought. And it wasn't all of them. I had to think about that confrontation with these people who I loved and love. Loved is past tense. I love them. I could have just not said anything. I could have not put it in the book, but that's not who I am. I was mad and I'm over it now. And I still love you. And I understand where you're coming from. And then the book. I never thought of myself as a good writer. And something in me, Nicole, was like, if I don't get this out, I'm one, either going to go crazy, or two, I'm going to build a lot of resentment. So write, Keisha. And I just started writing. Silence doesn't protect you. It never has. It's just, it lets somebody else write the story. Why would I do that?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to put my story out. I'm going to say what I want to say, how I want to say it, because nobody else is going to do that for me. So I went forward with it anyway, even though I thought it could have been a bad idea. And I did so with peace. I said my piece with peace. When I initially started writing, I was writing from a place of anger. And then my mom told me, you can't do anything with resentment or anger.
She's not
It's not
wrong.
going to land. She's not wrong.
Mhm.
You have got, if you're going to do it, baby, you have got to do it from a place of peace. So that once you have done it, you don't do it for anybody else but yourself. So being able to do it despite being scared, not the absence of fear. There was absolute fear in it. There was absolute doubt, but moving forward anyway, there's a particular kind of bravery in that. And that's something that I want to be proud of, whether I am a New York Times bestseller or not, or whether I reach 5 people or 500. I just wanted my story to get out and for people to see that it's not political for me. It is about really taking care of people. You can look at some of these examples, my hope, in how you deal with your family, how you deal with your professional life. And it was not a bad idea. Just like this podcast is not a bad idea. It's meant to be, because we wouldn't have done it.
Yes. And bravery it is all about the journey. And again, the destination, we can't foresee the destination when we start our journey. We may have an idea of what we would like the destination to be, but that is not the point. The point
Mm-mm.
is to take this walk and to go on this journey and to discover things about ourselves and to be brave and demonstrate through actions for anyone who's watching, but like we were saying, talking about our children and our
Yeah.
families and letting them know that it's okay to be scared. You are going to be scared. Most things that are worth doing, you have a moment of fear.
Yes.
But how do we push past that, and how do we continue to step forward? How do we take that step back if it doesn't work out? And knowing that things aren't linear and it's okay to make a mistake. So
Oh
I
my God.
applaud this journey and I applaud every step that you take. And I mean, life is iterative. So we just have
Hey,
to continue to course correct and just be the best versions of ourselves we can be. And that is the legacy that I want to leave
yeah.
for my daughter. And I think
Mhm.
it's very similar to what you've said that that you are showing and demonstrating to your children and the legacy that you want to leave. So from there, now is the fun part. We have talked for a while now about why I think that you are incredibly brave and courageous. Can you tell me about the moment in your life that you feel was your bravest moment?
People will say writing the book was brave. And it took courage to actually do that. But I honestly think choosing again and again to lead with grace when everything in me wanted to lead with anger. I think if you really think about that, what did the world want me to do? They wanted me to become hard, and I'm choosing softness. I am staying faithful when cynicism could have been easy. I am saying my piece with peace. I'm being intentional. There are no awards for this. This is just me doing what is right, even when no one is looking. So I think the bravest thing that I've ever done is that. I think everyone else in my life, in my book, the company, the public voice is built on a quieter foundation. But what Keisha chose to do is to let my choice of grace be what led me. Because it would have been easier to just be really angry, and it would have been justified to do so as
Mhm,
well.
mhm. And I love that, leading with grace, because choosing grace, and there was a line from your book when you talk about choosing grace and how someone shared that with you and as a leadership styles. I've talked to people recently from different agencies, and when I ask them how they're doing, so many of them are like, I'm still angry. And I'm not gonna say that anger
Yeah.
does not surface, because it does. It comes up at unexpected moments.
Yeah.
But it's how do you process it, and how do you move forward and not choose that anger
Yeah.
as influencing your actions, choosing to have grace for yourself, most
Hmm.
importantly, and for others. So I think it's wonderful, Keisha, just like you.
Yeah.
So, last question. For the person who is listening right now, who is standing on their own cliff, they are trying to figure out
Mm.
how they want to walk, how they want to demonstrate grace. Maybe they're being brave, maybe they're just being a little reckless, or at least it feels reckless. What would you say to them?
I thought long and hard about that. And let me say, I'm gonna take my time in this because it took me a while because I've been on the edge before. We've all been there. I think the fact that you may be on a cliff means something is calling you, right? Reckless people do not pause at the edge. They jump. Brave people stand, ask the harder question, and that question is what typically brings you to this conversation, right? Like, I'm at the edge, but something is holding me back. Stand still in that moment.
Mhm,
If you don't have or know what the right move is, then you have to be honest with yourself. And that is when you have to have your faith. You have to take a moment and be still and just realize that you're not by yourself. Because the one thing that I have found empowering and also scary is asking for help,
mhm,
being vulnerable, and asking for help from the people that you love should not be hard. We put that on ourselves, not the people who we're asking for help from. Because the first thing
mhm,
they'll say to us is, "You're on the edge. Why didn't you call me and tell?" And it's whatever we've created in our mind that makes us
mhm,
either feel weak or why do I need to get help? Because we're human and everybody needs
mhm.
help. So don't do it alone. Find people who are going to pray with you. Find people who are going to tell you the truth. Find those ones that are your ride and thrives. And then walk away from the edge. Walk away because it's nothing that is that bad that we can't get through. So be brave enough to remain unmuted, ask for help, and pray. Don't jump.
Well, for me, the jumping is part of the trusting in myself. But if we're looking at it from a reckless standpoint, I get it. Don't be reckless with it. Be intentional.
Be intentional.
Yes. Call your people. Make sure that you have someone by your side before you take that leap. Make sure that that you know that you are not in this alone.
Yeah.
And that's really
just
important.
Pause.
Just pause.
Yeah, just pause.
Take that breath. Take the breath.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Keisha. Thank you for being on the show, for closing out this season. Everyone, I Said My Piece with Peace is available on Amazon, and the link is going to be in the show notes. So please do follow and like and purchase the book. It is truly inspirational.
Can I make one last plug? One last
yes,
plug.
Yes.
I need to just say this. This book, I Said My Piece with Peace. The person who designed it, guess who it was?
I don't know.
My 12-year-old daughter.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. She is a genius. And when I told her mommy's writing a book, and she was like, oh, let me think about doing your book cover, Mom. When she brought it down to me, I cried. I was like, my gosh. I said, how did you, what? She was like, I'm your daughter. And that is also when I knew you got to do it now.
I am so impressed by your 12-year-old daughter. That is so amazing. The link to that and Keisha's website will be in the show notes. Thank you, listeners, for coming on this journey with me for season 1 of This May Be a Bad Idea. This final episode of the season, it does not close the chapter on the untold stories of the amazing humans who were the heart and soul of an agency that was dedicated to alleviating human suffering, USAID. Rather, their stories will be woven in with those from various other backgrounds, as we are all fabric of the same global community. Thank you for listening. Please like, follow, and leave a review. If you've been inspired by any of these stories of bravery, please share with your friends, your family, your frenemies, the stranger you see on the bus that you know is listening to a podcast. And if you happen to know someone who has pushed past that hard thing and is bravery personified, please reach out to tmbbipodcast@gmail.com or on Instagram @tmbbipodcast and tell me all about them. I would love to have them on the show. Thank you again, and come back for season 2. Bye.